Hello, everybody. Welcome to another focus session. My name is Steve Clark. I'm the Director of Customer Success here at OwnerRez. And for the next half an hour to an hour, we're going to just talk about quotes. I think this is one of those features that have been in OwnerRez a long time, and we still have users that, don't necessarily use quotes to their fullest capabilities. So just wanted to share a little bit how it works, some best practices, all of that good stuff. So go ahead and share my screen here and we will get into it. This is a recorded session, so don't feel you have to take notes fast and furious. We will Zach from our marketing team is in the audience, and he's going to be sending out a replay to everybody that signed up for this. Also, we do post our focus sessions on our webinars page, so they kind of live for a long time and can be attached to support articles and things of that nature. So so let's go ahead and get into it here. So I titled this The Hub of Your Direct Booking Success. We spend so much time supporting the channels, Airbnb, Vrbo, Booking.com, but the real cornerstone of direct bookings is being able to provide a quote. So we're going to get into the different ways that you can do that and kind of some different automation and whatnot that you can work into your workflow to make sure that those are followed up on. So all right, so the agenda today, we're going to talk about why quotes matter. I'm going to show you kind of the life cycle and the different statuses of a quote. We're going to go into the different ways to create a quote, whether that's through a widget or a booking link or maybe just manually entering it. I'll show you what the guest sees. I think that's an important part. I think a lot of you might know how to create a quote, but then you don't follow through and see the whole, what we call confirm and pay process. I think seeing that is kind of eye-opening, and you can see then what the guest sees. Then this is the other big part, that is just automating that follow-up. It's not just send a quote and, they didn't book. What am I going to do now? Right? Like, we can set a bunch of follow-ups to try to convert that that quote into a booking. And then we'll just, finalize with some common workflows and mistakes, and we'll go into a Q&A from there. So, all right. So first of all, why do quotes matter? Said here, quote isn't just a price estimate. I think at a simplistic level, a lot of people think I'm just sending a price to somebody, right? But really, it's, as it says here, the bridge between an interested party, they're interested in your property, and getting that booking. Sometimes without the quote, you're never going to get that booking, right? So it's a very important part of the process, and OwnerRez, I feel, does that very, very well. And we've recently updated a lot of our forms, so it looks even better and cleaner than years past. So anyways, the big thing, a lot of people too, I'll see in their accounts, they just type in a booking, somebody called me and they wanted to book, so I'm just going to put the booking in the system. We really don't recommend doing that. We recommend creating the quote and sending it to them. That way, they're typing in all the information themselves. There's less, back and forth, as it says here. There's less error. Also, part of the quote process, they sign the renter agreement. So if you have a renter agreement set up in the system, you send them a quote, you're automatically including that as part of your flow. Payment collections get handled automatically. Once again, if you do just enter in a booking, then you probably have to later on send them, either have to send them a request to get the credit card separately, and then you have to set up scheduled payments and all of these things. When you do it as a quote, all of that is taken care of automatically. Lastly, bookings, once it becomes a booking, there's not as much follow-up. Well, there is, but it's at the booking level. We might want to have different automated workflows to follow up on quotes. So that's why a quote is really important. And lastly, better lead tracking. A lot of times somebody calls in, you put it in as a booking, you might not remember, I got that one from Facebook, or I got this one here. When you actually do a quote, you can create what we call custom sources, and I'll show you those a little bit, and you can attribute each custom source to a quote, so that at the end of the year, you can run a report and say, how many leads did I actually get from Facebook? How many leads did I get from TikTok, or whatever? Wherever you're giving out those quotes, you could have custom sources to track where your leads are actually coming from. So this is the basic quote life cycle. So you're gonna have a new quote, then you're gonna send the quote. The guest is gonna view that quote, then hopefully they accept it, and it turns into a booking. So just to pull up, gonna pull up the software here. So, and you can see a lot of those, kind of the flow of the booking. If you actually go here into quotes, you can see some of their statuses. Is it booked? Preempted means you got another booking before they could book. Did the quote expire? That's the other great thing about creating quotes is you can actually set them to expire to create a certain sense of urgency. So you can say, let me create this quote, but it expires in 10 days. So this status here is kind of what shows you what's going on with those quotes. So yeah, I mean, this is just kind of basic, right? But you want to progress it along the path. And there are even templates you can make that and I can show you how to trigger, but you can create triggers to yourself if it enters into a different status, so that you can, realize, oh, this expired maybe. And maybe you could send another reach out that says, hey, I gave you 10 days and you didn't book it. Is there a reason why or anything I can help with? So anyways, we'll talk more about that. So there's 5 basic ways to create a quote, and I'll show you each of these here real quick. So the first one is create it manually in app. So I mean, I think this is pretty basic, but if we come in here into OwnerRez, you're going to come to quotes on the left-hand sidebar here. It looks like a piece of paper kind of, and you're just going to create quote. When you create a quote, if you have multiple properties, you're going to select the property that you want. I'm going to do this one. And then you're going to pick your arrival date. So, the calendar already shows what's blocked off, so you can't pick those. So maybe I want to do a quote for July. They've called in and tell me they want to come this week. And then this is the important part I think a lot of people miss. You don't have to select a source, but once again, it's good to know where are those leads coming from. So if you're creating a quote because somebody reached out to you on Facebook, you might want to create a custom source called Facebook, or social media in general, or something like that. In this case, I'm going to say the person, called me on the phone, right? So I'm going to attribute this to it was a phone booking. But like I said, all sorts of things you can do there. I'll show you custom sources in a minute. So once you've created it, it's going to take the base rates and create a quote based off of those. But don't worry, it hasn't sent yet, right? So I'm going to go ahead and say, okay, let's create a quote for these dates. There's 6 in the party or whatever. Maybe they told me they have 2 children and 1 pet. So now in here, what's cool is this actually goes through and says, but hold on, this property doesn't allow pets. So, I mean, I could still create the quote. I can say, well, forget it. I'm going to override that and create the quote anyways. Or you can use this as a time to go, let's go ahead and put 0 pets, and I'll tell them in my email that, they're not allowed to bring a pet. Anyways, we'll go ahead and create that quote. A few more information here. I mean, normally most of this is going to stay default unless you talk to them. They explicitly said they wanted an earlier check-in time or a later checkout time. You can amend that here. Here's where you can hold the quote. So by default, quotes are not held. It's kind of like first come, first serve. So you could send out a quote, and then you could get a booking on Airbnb or Vrbo, and that quote would no longer be good. But most of the time, people probably don't care. You just want a booking. You don't care where it comes from. So unless it's a friend or family member or somebody you really know, repeat guest, then maybe you want to hold those dates. You want to give them first right of refusal. So all you got to do is click this box, hold these dates, and now it's going to create a block that's going to pass to all those channels, and nobody's going to be able to book while this hold is active, or this booking's active. Then, maybe if you are holding it, maybe I don't want it to give them 10 full days. Maybe if I'm holding it, I only want it to be active for the next 3 days. I really want to create that sense of urgency. Like, look, I'm holding these dates for you for the next 3 days. You need to book. Down there, guest info, you can type it in. If it was repeat guest, they'd probably already be in there. let's say Bob Jones is booking, I would just pick him and it would auto fill out all the info he gave last time. If it is a brand new guest, obviously you would just type it all in. You can create any notes. These are just kind of internal to you so that you know why you did it. And then the important part, like I said before, is attribute a source. The other good thing about sources is you can have different rates based on source. You can have different messages go out based on source. Maybe you want to send different messaging to people that booked through a rental agent than you do those that booked on your website. So attributing it to a source gives you a lot of options around all of that. So I'm going to go ahead and save my quote. And now a quote has been created. But once again, it has not been sent yet. It just created the quote. So you can come in and this is your time. Let's say you wanted to give them a special price. I could come in here and I could change the charges. I could throw a discount on there or something. I could say, I want to do I'm just going to say other discount. I'm going to move that up here so it just applies to my rent. And why did it not move up? Okay. And I'm going to say, family discount or whatever, 15%. And over here, I'm going to put minus 15%. And you can see it's automatically going to, put the right dollar amount here. Or you could do a flat rate, if I just want to do $50 off. Now, remember, you got to put a negative if you want it to discount. I'm going to do negative 50 and see now it's red and that's a discount. So, but once again, let's do negative, oops, that's times. Let's do negative 15%. Okay, so now I've got my quote the way I want it. I've got the charges. This is a good time too. You can look at the rules of a quote. You can decide, maybe you have a different rental agreement you want to send to this quote, or maybe your rule is normally 50% up front, but this is a repeat booker and you only want to take 25% up front. You can come in and you can change those rules on a quote by quote basis before you even send it out. So that's a pretty cool feature. So once I have the rules set the way I want, then I can just send that quote. And when I send it, it's going to create this preview for you before it sends. So you have the opportunity to go in. Maybe I want to, this is my default messaging, but like I said, maybe this is a repeat guest and I want to say something special to him. I could type in whatever I want here before sending it. So, okay, so that's creating the quote. Let's go through the what the guest sees. I told you that's important. So when the guest gets this email, obviously it's going to look something like this, and they're going to get these two links at the bottom. When they follow that link, this is what takes them to the confirm and pay form. So you're going to have your logo on the top, and it's going to be branded to you, and they're going to come through. And first thing they see is if you have any optional add-ons configured. If you don't have any optional add-ons in your account, this box won't show here. But, my property is in the mountains, so I do firewood, so they have the option for $25. They can buy some firewood. It shows them a picture and all that stuff. So if they want it, they can just check it. And when they do save add-ons, it's going to add that right here to my fees. It added $25 of firewood. Next, they put in their address. Remember, this was a repeat user, so it already pre-filled in his address, so we're good to go there. And then if you have custom field codes, this is additional information. Like I want to know, does he want to use the EV charger? I'm going to put yes. They have to upload an ID, right? So we're going to go ahead and put that in. So here, I got a sample ID here. So once again, when you collect an IDs through our interface, it's not doing any checking of the ID. It's just basically giving you something to look at later so you can check, did the name of the ID match the name of the booking? Does everything look good? It basically keeps honest people honest. License plate, maybe that's something I need because I'm in an HOA or something. So they put in their license plate. And in my agreement, I really want them to initial that they understand there's no smoking. So they filled out all that info. It takes them to the rental agreement. So once again, built into the whole process here. And here's those initials. We're at an initial. All good to go. So they're going to sign. It was Bob Jones or something, right? So they're going to sign. It's going to date it and get their IP address. And then, if you have a credit card processor, it's going to take you through paying by credit card or whatever payment options you have. So for this one, I'll just say they're going to send a check. And you see it outlines everything, how much you're collecting now, how much is going to be due later based on the rules, if you do a security hold, all of those things. So just to finalize it, I'm going to do a check, and they're going to finalize that booking. So that's what the guest sees. When we go back into OwnerRez, you'll see our quote, which was here, July 14th, July 18th. It's now, I should have changed it before it was open. It now changed to book because I finalized the process. So if I came into this quote, it says here that it's booked, all of that good stuff. And you can right here go to the booking that's associated with it now. So now I'm over at the booking and we're in that process, right? So that's a manual quote. Like I said, some people will just come in and create the booking right away, but I really think it's worth the extra few minutes. I mean, it doesn't take long to create a quote, as you saw. Even talking you through it, would that take me 5 minutes maybe? And once you do it all the time, you can create quotes pretty darn quickly. So that's creating it manually. Next thing I want to show you is if you did have your own website, how it would come in from an inquiry widget or a booking widget. And these are very similar, so really it's the same flow. It's just with an inquiry widget, it's going to come into the inquiries first, and then you're going to send a quote back out. With the booking widget, if you have instant book turned on, it's just going to create that quote on the fly and take them right through the flow I just showed you. So once again, I think I got to host a website on this account. Yeah. So if somebody wanted to book and they were at the website, they would come here to book now or whatever. It gives them the widget. I'm going to try to book that same property, Woodhaven, and I'm going to select some dates. So you see, here's my last booking that we just did. It's taken now, but maybe I want to book the week before. They put in everything, same thing. It's going to show them a quote here, and then they can put in all the rest of their information. Will be Bill Johnson this time. BJ at test.com, whatever. So when they put in all the info, and if you have a discount code, they can enter that in, all of that good stuff. But they have the option, do they want to book now or do they want to send an inquiry? So for this purpose, I'm going to send an inquiry. So they would put comments in here, interested in these dates, but do you have a hot tub? Maybe they want to make sure of that before they book or something. So they're sending you an inquiry. So now they submit that inquiry. It tells them, hey, you got an inquiry. Somebody will get back to you soon. So now in inquiries, you'll see I have one brand new one. And here's that. It's telling me it came from my website, right? So it's very clear what the source is. It came in on the widget. It came in on these dates. Right now, I haven't read this inquiry and it's unanswered, but it is quotable, meaning these dates are available, right? So I can go in now and I can create the quote right from here. I can create and send it. Or if I still had more questions, I could answer them without sending a quote. They're kind of your options. But once again, if I do create a quote, it's just going to make it. It created that quote pretty darn quick because it already had all that other information we had to enter. So now I can come in here to quote. And once again, I didn't do quote and send. I just created the quote. So I can change the charges. I can do all this stuff before sending it to them. And when I'm ready, then I can send it and it would go through the same flow. So that's how it kind of works going through the booking widget. The last thing I wanted to show, because I think it's a lot of people don't use it or don't even know it's there, but and this is kind of like a mini quote, I would say. but it's the direct booking link. Before, if you didn't want to create a quote, so a lot of people would just say, hey, go to my website. Go to my website, put in the dates you're interested in, and it will create the quote for you, right? Well, the other thing you can do now is what we call a direct booking link. So if I come here and say create quote, you'll see public link here. And once again, I'm going to click that same property, Woodhaven. And, they told me they were interested in these dates. Maybe I talked to them on the phone and they said they were interested in these dates. I can create my listing site or whatever. And then I could just send this link to them, right? So I could copy the link and put it in an email. We're just going to view the link. But as you see, this basically looks a lot like that confirm and pay form. But it starts just with this first screen, basically showing them the quote. So they can go through and maybe they didn't like these dates exactly, before accepting it, or maybe you got the guest count wrong. They can change information on this page. And when they're ready, they have it all the way they want. Let's just put in Bill Johnson again. Oops. It's 2 fields. So they're going to put in all the info here. And when they click book now, it's going to take them through that same process. Now, let's say they started booking and they quit, right? Like they said, oh, I don't know, I'm having buyer's remorse and I didn't finish this. Well, these dates were June 30th and July 4th, right? So now when I come in here to bookings and I go to quotes, you'll see it created a quote that's still open. They didn't finish booking it. So this comes into our workflow later because you're going to have people that go through your website or whatever, and they might start a quote, but don't finish it. Well, you're going to see that here in quotes. And I'm going to show you how to set up some templates to help answer those. Okay. So, and last thing I had in here was search and availability widget. It's not a quote tool per se, but something just to realize kind of it's a road to a quote, right? So if you're on your booking website again, somebody's here, this is the property and availability search widget. They're going to put in their information. So they want to say August 14th, and they have 4+ guests. Now, this website only has 2 properties, but let's say you had 20 listings. It would narrow it down to just the ones that had, like this is a 1-bedroom. So I'm gonna say I only want it if it's got 3 bedrooms or more. And when I search that, it comes back, okay, only this property is available. When they click into it, it's going to take them to the property page that has the quote tool right on it. And you see it already pre-populated the dates they chose and gave them the quote here. So it's ready to roll. As soon as they put it in their information, then you'll have that in OwnerRez, even if they don't finalize the quote. So, like I said, I think it's important to know how some of these widgets work because they are the kind of your gateway to a quote. So, okay. I see there's a couple of chats. I will get to those here in a bit, so I appreciate it. See in the Q&A a couple of questions, so I will come back to those at the end, I promise. So, okay, so we already went over what the guest sees, right? They see the email with your branding, your property details, all of that. They have an acceptance page where they see the totals and the costs. They don't happen to have an account with you or anything to see that. They're just clicking on a link. They sign the agreement. They give you payment details, and their booking's confirmed. So the whole thing is to get this quote process as easy as possible with as little friction for the guests as possible so that they don't have any, spots in the process where they're like, oh, I'm going to bounce off, right? So we went over that already. So the next thing that's important to know is, okay, this is all great, Steve. I know how to make a quote. Got that. But, I feel like people make a quote, then I just never follow up with them. So, OwnerRez is all about automating tasks. That's kind of one of the key things of it. So an important part of this is creating a workflow for yourself to follow up with things. So this is just an example, sequence you can use. You can make a template that's your kind of day one first touch. Maybe, one day after the quote's created, you're going to create a template or something that says, hey, oops, I'm just checking in. Do you have any questions? Day 4, maybe you send another one that says, hey, if those dates are still available, we'd love to host you. And then maybe 7 or 8 days later, you create one that says, hey, I see it still isn't booked. Sorry we couldn't connect, but if you'd like to still reserve, just do so quick because those dates might, fill up. Now, obviously, this is just an example. If, you got a tighter window, you get a lot of last minute bookings, maybe you want to do day 1, 2, 3. Maybe you want to be real aggressive and do, an hour later and then 4 hours later, then 8 hours later. I don't know. It's up to you. My property is a little more laid back in the mountains. I would follow something like this. I don't want to bug them, hourly. So, because that can have a not desired effect, right? You can be too pushy, right? So there's a balance. But anyways, let's go back into the account here. So, we're talking about templates and triggers, basically. So first step is to create a template. And I've got my 3 here, day 1, day 4, day 8, right? And how I created those, just FYI, is I came here to copy from library, and I created this quote follow-up email or template, right? And it by default, you can change what it's called. This is just for internal use, but it's going to send from your company to the client's email. And I'm just saying, basically, hi, first name, thanks for checking out. Property name, we'd love to host you on your stay. Below is a quote. Let me know, this is the standard, right? So if we preview it, we see it gives them a nice quote, everything with those acceptance links like I talked about before. And, maybe this is what's sent right when the quote's created, right? We already showed you that's kind of what it sends. What I did, though, is I created this and I edited them a little bit to make them unique to each step. So right at day 1, I'm kind of sending the same thing. Thanks for checking out. Here's a quote. But then I added, I just want to check in to see if you had any questions about the property, pricing, amenities, or booking process. I'm happy to help. And I also changed the title, right? Any questions about your quote for property name at these dates, right? If we preview that. Any questions about your quote for Autumn Ridge? Or we can do the property I was looking at before, Woodhaven. Okay. Now I got to change it I got to change the property display name on this property because that's too long, right? So, I just wanted to say thanks for checking out Woodhaven. And just to show you that real quick, I think a lot of people don't understand this too. In properties, each property has a couple different ways of naming it. So we come here and change. This is the name you're using internally, which, this is probably really too long for internal. This is more my headline on Airbnb or whatever. So, I could change this to Woodhaven. And then this is the public display name. And if you don't have anything in here, it's going to use this name anyways. So, but I'm going to say Woodhaven Cabot. Or maybe I want the name here, Woodhaven. Maybe I want to know that this is a 3-bed in Georgia. Just maybe I have a lot of properties in my portfolio, so I want this to be a different name. But on my templates, I'm going to use this public display name. So I want that short and sweet, right? So if I go back in now to my email template and I preview that now, I go back to Woodhaven. See, it was there 3-bedroom in Georgia, but here it just says, any questions about your quote for Woodhaven? So important thing to know, kind of a basic of templates, but you have different, here I'm using property display name. Now, if I just use P name, it would use that other one, right? So if I use P name instead, and previewed it, you see it's gonna use the other one that I had put in, the 3-bedroom, all of that. Why am I not seeing it? Oh, there it is. Whew. So anyways, thank you for checking out Woodhaven 3-bed in Georgia, right? So it is important to know when you're creating your templates. I guess my point is just make sure you're using the right field code that fits your templates. So I'm going to use property display name for this. So anyways, you'll see that this one's just a little bit different. And then if I go into the other templates, my day 4, I'm just changing the messaging a bit. Now the subject, I said your dates are still available. Trying to create that urgency. Make sure you book. Once again, I just change it. The top part I kind of left the same, but at the bottom, if you have any questions, just reply to this email. Trying to get them to interact with me. And then the day 8 email, maybe there I'm just letting them know, hey, this is the last time, but subject, still interested in reserving your stay. If you're still considering a stay, we'd love to host you. If your plans to change, no worries. If you have any questions or anything, let me know. But anyway, so we have 3 different templates because they're serving different things, right? And then in triggers, I'm going to create my quote follow-up triggers, right? So here, sorry, that took me back to the template. I click here on description. Anyways, I'm doing days after the quote is created. I'm doing 1 day. You could, like I said, do minutes after. You could do that, but I'm doing 1 day after the quote's created at 9 a.m. Only send it if the quote status is open, right? So if they booked, they won't get this email. If they got preempted because somebody else booked, they won't get this email. Maybe you need to make another template for when it's preempted. Hey, somebody picked those dates. I'm so sorry. The quote I sent you before is not active. If you're interested in another dates, let me know. Go back to my website and pick different dates. So like I said, there's all sorts of different flows you can create here, but I'm just showing you really basic, the follow-up flow. So how long? 1 day after, if the quote status is open, and I'm going to send my 1 day template that I made, right? I don't need to retry this because it's either going to send or it's not. So there's no reason to really retry this one. So after I've created that one, then maybe I do my day 4 follow-up. So same thing, days after the quote is created. So your options here is booking is created, whatever. I'm doing 4 days after the quote is created. If the quote status is open, send my day 4. And lastly, a day 8 follow-up, So, and same thing, days after quote's created, 8 days at 9 a.m. If the quote status is open, send this. So, so you definitely, these are not in your account by default. So this is something, if you want to create a workflow of tracking quotes, this is a way to do it. You can also create templates to yourself. Maybe if this is 1, 4, and 8 is what you're doing to tell the guests, maybe you want to tell yourself on day 7, by the way, this guy really is not booked yet. Maybe you can give him a call. Maybe you can text him. Maybe you can WhatsApp him, whatever else, So this doesn't have to be to the guest. You could create follow-ups to yourself as well. So anyways, so that's that. So these are just some common workflows. If it is a phone inquiry, basically the guest is going to call. You probably create that quote manually. You send them the quote, and hopefully that quote guest is going to book. They're real high interest. They had you on the phone. The likelihood of them finalizing the booking right then and there is pretty high, right? If they sent you an email, or whether that was an inquiry through the widget or whatever, you can convert that to a quote. So I think I didn't show you that. I mean, if it does come in as an inquiry, there is a button, when it is open or unanswered here, I can come in and, well, you can create a quote. I showed you this. You create a quote from it. So I shouldn't have gone to inquiry. I should have gone to quotes. And when it's open here, you just click into it. And right here, you can convert it to a booking. So let's say you sent them the quote, but they called you back and said, yeah, we definitely want it. Once again, I normally wouldn't convert to a booking. I would encourage them, well, click that link and go through it. Because if you convert it to a booking manually, the rental agreement's not going to be signed. You're not going to have the credit card on file, all of these things. But there might be cases, maybe it's a close friend or family member, and you just want to convert it for them. You can't always just convert this quote to a booking right here. Returning guests, same thing. They're going to contact you however they contact you. You send them the quote. Maybe you can just send them that direct link. The guest books and then it's done, right? So when it's returning guests, hopefully once again, they're not hemming and hawing and sitting on that quote a long time. Hopefully they're booking rather quickly. Website lead, same thing. They come to your website, they go through the widget though, it generates the quote, and then they book from there. So yeah, these are kind of the common quote workflows and how things come through the system. So, kind of in closing, common mistakes to make. Like I said, I think I've said it more than once. I wouldn't create bookings directly. I would create quotes. Reason being is the guest can put the most complete information in it. It's faster and it's more reliable, right? Don't skip follow-up reminders. Set up automated sequences. Make bookings come after the first or second follow-up. Or I said most bookings come. So, right, not everybody, they're not going to get that quote. Maybe they had to talk to their husband or talk to their wife or something. And they just that quote sitting in their inbox and they kind of forgot about it, So nudging them sometimes brings their brain right back to it. And they're like, oh yeah, I got to finalize that. Collecting info guests can enter themselves. It's just time saving for you. Why are you going to be emailing them and saying, hey, I had a client the other day, they're in the Keys and they need to know a lot of their people bring boats and they need to get the trailer license or how long the trailer is, things of that nature. You can create custom fields that will show right in the agreement to gather all that information. You don't need to be sending emails or forms and, or calling them to get this information. It can all be part of the booking process. So that's what's awesome about a quote is how much time it's going to save you. Common mistake, not using source tracking. I want to show you that real quick because I promised that and I kind of skipped over it. But here, if you go to settings, here's custom sources. So by default, you won't have any in here. You might have my website when you create a hosted website. We create that one for you. But you can create anything you want here. Whatever your common, like I said, maybe I want one for Facebook. So I can create a source here that's called Facebook. And then that way, we got to build it. I can't, Facebook page, I'll just say, I'm just going to call it something different. But now, I can, if I got a quote from Facebook, I know I was talking to somebody there and they booked, I can attribute the booking to Facebook or whatever. There's all these different ones, whatever you want, you can type in and create that for. So, all right. And, big common pitfall, right? Letting the quotes expire without automation. So most people don't have these workflow follow-ups set up. They just give in a quote, they set it to expire in 10 days because that's the default. 10 days go by and the person never books. Nudge them, ask them what's going on. Maybe you get some feedback and you find out why they didn't book. Maybe they said, man, I really wanted to stay, but your picture made it look like this. And when I was reading it, it didn't have this. So I don't want to stay. And then, maybe that's not true. Maybe it's like, no, we do have that. Sorry, I'll update my listing for next time. But we definitely have that. There's 100 reasons why people find themselves not finalizing the booking. And just a little communication can, finish that up for you. So quotes equals your conversion engine. I said, if you just take away 3 things today, I think I've said this one 100 times, use quotes instead of manual bookings every time. Let the system do the work for you. Make it easy for guests to book themselves. The checkout flow handles agreements, payments, deposits. You don't want to be having to send them those things separately. And then automate your follow-up. Most bookings do require more than one touch. So you set it up once and it will do those for you. So that's it. We're going to get into the Q&A here. And I do see a couple of things. Roxana says, what is the management fee on your quote for? Curious, like a booking fee? I mean, in this, I just put something for the demo to have surcharges in there. I actually, on my personal property, do have a management fee that covers damage protection. I use our damage protection, so it costs me, $35 per booking, and I pass that on to the guest. So, maybe you don't want to call it a damage fee. You just call it a management fee. So it's, some people feel if you tell them it's damage that they're more apt to cause damage, right? So, but a management fee can be for anything. really. It's just each, especially in the OTAs, Airbnb, Vrbo. Airbnb only allows you to have 5 different categories. So you have rent, you have cleaning fee, you have linen fee, resort fee, and management fee is one of the options. So management fee kind of is your catch-all, whatever you want to charge that maybe you want to track separately from rent. And once again, on Airbnb now, even if you call it a management fee, they're going to roll that into rent anyways. Same thing on your direct booking website, you can do the same thing. Now, here, if you come to pricing preferences, there's the option. Do I want to give a detailed breakdown on the surcharges so that it was shown separately, like I showed in the demo? Or I could say just combine all the surcharge lines together and call it cleaning fee. So I could have the cleaning, management, linen all into one called cleaning fee, so they don't see that it's different. But when the booking comes into OwnerRez, you'll see it's different, so you can track it differently for your owners or whatever other reasons you want. So this is on pricing preferences. So yeah. Catherine, I may have missed it. How do you make it so the initial certain rules is only via direct booking? How would guests who book OTAs get the same workflow? Yeah, so I mean, our initial system, it's not the best, truthfully, but what you do is you create a custom field definition. So you'll see here's my no smoking agreements initials. So I basically created a plain text field. We can see the settings here. I called it no smoking agreement initials, no smoking initials. I made it a required entry, so they can't go past this without, putting their initials in. And then in my actual rental agreement, so after I created the custom field, I went into my renter agreement. I think it's this one. And you'll see here under line 13, I already had guest understands this is no smoking, blah, 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 blah. But I put in that field code, no smoking initials. So whatever they initialed during the confirm and pay flow will show up here. So they're not, a lot of people want them to go through the actual agreement and type it in, kind of like a, man, why am I having a brain? What's it called? Like Adobe Pay or Adobe, a form. Gosh, why can't I think of the name of what I'm thinking about? But anyways, a form system where you're going through and you're doing all those agreements. This works pretty well. I mean, truthfully, I don't even feel initials are really required. I just put this in as an example because a lot of people like to do this. But in today's day and age, if they are they're digitally signing an agreement, they're saying they agree to everything in that agreement. I guess the nice part about initials is you're showing it to them twice. You're really, in this case, I'm telling them no smoking very clearly. And then they have to read the whole agreement, which we all know they don't necessarily learn the whole agreement, right? But that's how you would put in initials. So Roxana said she didn't know about the direct link. Now I'm glad that was helpful and follow up. So great. Are you putting damage waiver in rental agreement if you roll it into the nightly rental agreement? Thank you, Steve. Learn something new each time. Yeah, I mean, in the rental agreement, I'd have to go look at mine. Do I actually I think I do put that, that they purchase that. Like I said, some people don't. Some people, because the great thing if you're using Rental Guardian, our actual plan, is you're buying the policy and you're the beneficiary. So you don't even really need to tell them about it. If your cleaner calls you and says, hey, they broke this coffee table or whatever, there's no interaction that needs to be done with the guest. The guest isn't really, you're buying that policy under your name. And you're going to make the claim and all of that stuff. So you don't have to tell them about it. A lot of people, like I said, firmly believe if you tell them that there's a damage protection policy, that they are more apt to cause damage. Personally, I do tell them about it. I have this section in my guidebook, let's see, that I think it's funny, I guess. But I don't know if you guys, I'm a child of the 80s. So there was a character on Saturday Night Live called Mr. Bill. And he was always breaking stuff. He was always getting hurt and everything else, right? So I have a section in mine. Let's see if I can find it real quick. But it basically says, hey, if you broke something, tell me about it. Here you go, breakages. Oh no, we accidentally broke something. There's Mr. Bill. And I said, stuff happens. We understand you're on vacation. Seriously. The main thing we ask is you inform us that it happened so we can correct it before the next guest arrives. If it's significant, your reservation came with $3,000 worth of accidental breakage insurance. So all we need to do is file a claim, but time is of the essence. So I do tell them about it because I want them to tell me about it. But anyways, it's up to you. You could do it either way. Do I actually have it in my rental agreement? No, I don't think I do, to tell you the truth, because it's not something I won't need them to agree to. But yeah, great question, and totally up to you what you want to do there. So, okay. Well, I just see Zach was Johnny on the spot with all our links here, so I appreciate that. And I guess that will bring this session to a close. I really appreciate everybody attending, and we always just like to close on this slide here. If you guys need any help, we're here for you. If you go to OwnerRez.com/support, you'll have access to our support docs. There's a section for webinars that you can watch this and any other one. Our forums are a great place to get information from other clients. Sometimes, we support the product, but you might have a question like Roxana did about, hey, how do you as an owner do this? Well, that's not something our support team can necessarily answer. But in the forums, there's 8,000 other owners that can see that. So, maybe that's a great place to have that conversation. Blog, our marketing team, Zach and Paul, they work very hard at putting up blog posts and product updates and telling you about new features. So definitely check out the blog. And if worse comes to worse, you can't get help anywhere else, help@OwnerRez.com. We have a great support team. They'll get back to you as soon as they can and help you through it. So, all right. Well, appreciate you guys coming. Happy quoting. Hopefully those quotes turn into bookings. And we will catch you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.